Hi guys, welcome to the third video of our biopsych unit. Today the video is going to be a short little one just on focusing on neurotransmitters. So the last video you just watched was all about the neurons and how a neuron works and how it sends messages and the action potential and the synapse and all of that stuff, right? And I said that the way that a neuron sends a message is it sends it through electricity, but the message is actually carried in a chemical called a neurotransmitter. So I want to tell you a little bit about some major neurotransmitters you're going to have to know for my test and for the AP test. So just a brief overview of what a neurotransmitter is, right? The neurotransmitters are these guys right here, okay, and this would be the synapse. Obviously, this is magnified, right? The synapse is not this big, and they're bloop, 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 right across, right? So they're extremely small. They are literally like a pinch of salt in an Olympic-sized pool. They're very complex. So the way that I teach them to you is very much like simplistic. They do this, but they're actually very complex. They do a lot of different things. Some of them are excitatory. These are the green light, go. These are the neurotransmitters that send the go messages. They want to activate the neuron, go, right? And then you have inhibitory neurotransmitters, and these are ones that stop the neuron from sending, right? They tell it to pause or to wait or to send later. Okay, now, this is a chart of the neurotransmitters. Oh, sorry. This is a chart of the neurotransmitters you have to know, okay? So I'm going to talk through these kind of quickly. You need to stop and pause this and copy down this chart so you have them, okay? Acetylcholine, ACH. What it does in your body is muscle action, memory, and learning. If you do not have enough acetylcholine, right, you may develop Alzheimer's because your memory would be impaired. Nicotine is a drug that impacts acetylcholine in your brain. Dopamine controls movement, learning, attention, and emotion, okay? And the movement in this one is like non-voluntary movement. So it's not like muscle movement, but like heart and those kinds of things that are less voluntary. It affects your emotion, like your rewards, okay? So like how happy or sad you are and how excited you kind of are about things. And then learning. And one of the big problems is that if you have too much dopamine, you often have schizophrenia, or it can cause schizophrenia to associate with it, and not enough is Parkinson's. And that's because if you think about the movement thing, the schizophrenia is like the, and we'll talk about this a little more, but they get like frozen in place, and Parkinson's, they kind of shake. And cocaine acts on dopamine, which is why it's so rewarding, because dopamine works on your reward pathway. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in class. Serotonin, right? So serotonin affects mood, hunger, sleep, and arousal, okay? It basically is in charge of things like if you don't have enough, you are depressed. If you don't have enough, you can have an eating disorder, OCD. And the drugs that impact it are ecstasy and LSD. Norepinephrine, remember this is also a chemical and a hormone, and it's your alertness and your arousal. So your fight or flight. And a lot of times people who have depression and anxiety can have problems with norepinephrine and serotonin. Endorphins are your pain control and your pleasure. And these are affected by opiates or morphine that can actually like change those in your brain. GABA is an inhibitory transmitter. So if you don't have enough of this inhibitory transmitter, it can cause like insomnia or seizures or tremors or all of these things. And alcohol really impacts your GABA, which is why a lot of times people with alcohol have like slower reflexes because it causes more inhibition of movement. Glutamate is an excitatory transmitter, okay? It does a little bit on memory, but it's a lot of times involved in, if you have too much, in migraines or seizures as well. And glutamate is actually like MSG, which is a chemical that they put in food sometimes to make it taste good. So glutamate actually, like MSG connects with glutamate in your brain, and that's why sometimes it can cause problems. And then another drug that affects glutamate would be alcohol. So alcohol actually affects your GABA and your glutamate, and we'll talk more about that in class. I have a little video I'll show you, make a little more sense. So while you have neurotransmitters naturally in your brain, okay, there are things that you can take, like things that you can ingest, or things that go into your body that act like neurotransmitters and trick your brain. So some of them are called agonists. Sorry, I'm having trouble today, guys. Agonists are ones that are, they bind to neurotransmitters and they mimic it. So an agonist looks like this right here. Do you see how it like kind of looks like it? Like this is the actual neurotransmitter, almost like it, right? So nicotine is an agonist for ACH, right? That's like I said right here, you see nicotine affects acetylcholine. It causes you to produce more of it. And so opiates. So opiates, right here, morphine, that's why opiates like morphine and other drugs, they really actually give you that high because they mimic that or endorphins in your system. And then antagonists bind or stop they bind to the neurotransmitter and block it, okay? So antagonists look like this. Do you see? There's not enough to send the message, but enough to prevent the actual neurotransmitter from getting in. And then Cure-R, and it's called botulinum toxin, right? Those are two types. So Cure-R they used to use in like dart guns to like shoot animals, and it like, causes them to become paralyzed. Okay. So we'll talk more about neurotransmitters in class, but that's just a brief overview. And that's all for now, AP Psychos. Oh, one last thing. Sorry, that's not all. So drugs often disguise themselves as neurotransmitters. So the deal is that sometimes we give people drugs. We they're called selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, like antidepressants, and we give them for the reason that we want them to act like a neurotransmitter in your brain. So if I'm depressed, I don't have enough serotonin, okay? So what happens is the chemical structure blocks the hyperactive reuptake. So basically, and if you're depressed, it sucks them up too much. So what happens is that these little guys come in, these little red guys, they come in, bing, pink, and they block the reuptake, okay? They do that in antidepressants. That's how antidepressants work, okay? Now, the problem with that is that cocaine also works like that, and that's why cocaine gives you that high. This is a picture of actually cocaine, not the serotonin, the reuptake inhibitors, but they work the same way. So if you see here, these are the neurotransmitters, right, the dopamine, and they're bloop, 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 and they send, and then they would get sucked back up. But what cocaine does is cocaine comes in and blocks the reuptake, so it just keeps sending over and over and over again, and that's how you get high. Well, if you're depressed, it's actually a really good thing because you don't have enough serotonin, so you want to send more and more serotonin. But for cocaine, it causes you to get that feeling of getting high. All right, now that's all for now, AP Psychos. And remember, psychology is flippin' awesome.